Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Man on the Rocks. It is I, the baldest of boys, Joe. Joining me this week, as always, my wonderful co-host Atlas.
What's up, everybody?
This week, that's right, it's another guest episode. So, guest, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone. My name is Jayden, and I don't really know what else there is to introduce, but
He is a champion. He is a tournament grinder. He is a master in his field. Jaden's one of our usual winners in the Lacey Olympia area for competitive EDH stuff. And so, seeing as this episode's all about tournaments, we thought we'd have him on.
Tournaments, baby. It's summertime. Sun's out, guns out. It's commander time. It's CEDH time. It's grinding time. You know, rise and grind gamers. Why don't you come on down, get a drink with us?
But yeah, I think tournament structure is a really important thing to consider when you're getting ready, just because it could help inform which deck you play. It could inform a play style that you take. Like if it's going to be 90 minutes, no turns, like and you might want to take a faster deck and just stretch your turn as long as you possibly can every single time, so that other people won't get a chance to play, which is kind of scummy, but that's what the format incentivizes. So
also, towards the end of it, I definitely took 5 seconds longer per decision that I was making. For sure. I wasn't I was slow playing a little bit, but I was genuinely tanking. I'm just I'll think this through one more time.
Well, yeah. I do that actually, Herman's slow playing, so I get turn 0.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but doing it as just to draw the game like that is kind of
sometimes you'll take just not slow play, but you'll just take 2 or 3 extra seconds to consider your decision, because there's only a minute 30 left on the clock, and you're like, okay, if I just cast this spell right now,
maybe I'll throw out a complicated spell that takes a little bit to resolve, but I wouldn't play it normally.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm going to Swords to Plowshares this, and people are like, oh shit, well, we can't let that. Stat goes on, take a minute to debate,
You just take the most inflammatory action possible at the table.
God, I hate when I see Atlas do that.
Do what? What I
just get turn 0. I feel like you get turn 0 so many many of the games.
I played a turn 0 because it's important. It really matters if you're getting 3 extra turns or 2 extra turns. That was the reason that I ended up drawing with you and John in the other game, is because I was like, I don't want to do this. It's the homies, because there were literally 30 seconds left on the clock, and I knew it. I was staring at the clock, and I was like, I'll pass the turn. I should have just waited. I should have just let the timer burn and been turn 0.
That's uncanny for you, Atlas. That's very uncanny for you.
What? I definitely was keeping an eye on the timer during my game 3, though, because I knew I wasn't winning that game after turn 2. It was going to be really hard, and after turn 3, I knew there was a 0% chance I was winning that game. So I was playing for a draw from turn 3 forwards. Because I kept a 1-lander. I was like, if I get a land on turn 2 or turn 3, it's okay. It's playable. I'll recover. I can recover. And I saw not one land, except the one that I did keep, until maybe turn, I don't know, 15 or 16, which was right 7 minutes before time in the round. It was the last turn of the game. I drew my fetch land, and I played my fetch land, and I cracked my fetch land, and I said I would like to offer a draw.
I remember standing by that table and you just being like, I'm pretty sure I can play Table of Police for the next 10 minutes.
Yes.
And it sounded like everyone else is mostly deadlocked, and was just like, we can just draw here.
Yeah, so the situation for that one was, I was in 3rd seat. There was an Atraxa player. The 7-mana Food Chain Atraxa was in 2nd seat. And there was...
That deck was popular down
there. It was really popular. It's a good deck. 1st seat was Thrasios Dargo, which is a sweet list. And 4th seat was Rocco. And so turn 1, Thrasios Dargo goes Land Orc Pass. Turn 1, Atraxa goes Land, Crypt, Carpet of Flowers, move to 2nd main phase, trigger on the Trop Island that the T-Dark player played, Soul Ring, Food Chain. And I'm sitting over here with nothing in play, looking at this, just going, oh dear God. Because my keep was 1 land, 2 dorks, Op Agent because of Rocco, I figured that Thrasios Dargo would tutor for their dockside eventually. Then I had a Pact of Negation for when I drew my lands in late game.
It kills
and
the food chain.
I had
I thought you said you were going to exile the
else
Eternal
that wasn't
Scourge.
super relevant.
Right.
I think it was like a Noxious Survival or something. And then my last card is a Mindbreak Trap that I kept for either Rocco or Thrasios Dargo. And Atraxa snapped food chain on the table, and I was like, oh, well, I know what this Mindbreak Trap's going to do now. Exiled their food chain, and they were a little... yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was going to wait for them to make infinite mana. Second iteration of the loop, I was going to exile that. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I exiled their food chain, and then Rocco does Rocco things, and T-Dark does T-Dark things, and Atraxa does Atraxa things, and I'm over here still missing land drops. I'm just got my dork shot at one point by a walking ballista. I was like, I was on one land, I was like, what is happening?
Oh my god. Thrasios Dargo has been doing a lot of stuff. I've seen it in a lot of tournament reports.
Yeah, it's been really popular lately.
Who knew?
Dargo's been really picking up steam.
Combo in the command zone plus outlet is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Turns out.
Oh, pretty good.
I heard the coolest combo from that same player in one of his other rounds killed the table by using Gwenna. It's like Eyes of Gaia or something like that.
I'm gonna look this
Anyways, it's a 3-mana dork. It can tap to make 2 mana. It can only be spent to cast or activate creatures. Guess what? Dargo's a 1-mana creature, and Thrasios is a creature with an activated ability, so that's kind of crazy. But you can make 2 mana, and it untaps every time you cast a creature spell with power 6 or greater. And coincidentally, Dargo has power of 7. So if you can get Dargo to cast for 1, you can sacrifice it to an outlet, and then it'll cast using Gwenna's ability, and then it untaps Gwenna, and you can sacrifice it again, which reduces its command text by 2.
That's so cool.
And then you cast it again, and you net 1 mana each loop, and then you just sink that into Thrasios, because you can activate Thrasios, because it's like a pseudo-Somber World Sage.
This was March Machines?
Yeah,
Brothers
I think
War.
so. Yeah, Brothers War.
I don't know, all this stuff's been
Cards really
together.
cool. Cards are really cool, but yeah, that was a sweet loop that I heard about, and I was like, I'd never considered that. It's neat. So we did that, and like you mentioned, Joe, it's we played for a whole bunch of time. Rocco tried to win, and I was thankfully able to. At one point, I top decked Worldly Tutor, and there were like 9 artifacts and enchantments in play, so I was able to cast a Dockside, make a bunch of treasures, and then I blocked a Winota with it, and then I Noxious Survivaled it, and so Dockside was my land drop for turn. For like 7 turns.
If you're gonna make 1 land drop, that's a pretty good land drop to make.
It's a pretty good land drop. So anyways, it gave me enough mana that I was able to interact with like Op H it to stop Rocco and things like that. And at one point the Atraxa player tried to tutor for their Thoracle, and I tried to op them, and they went to Blue March, phase out my opposition agent, and so I Pact Negationed it. And they were like, why the hell would you do that? Are you gonna you only have 4 mana that you can produce on your upkeep? And I was like, but I'm doing this anyways. And then they just spelled it for me. I was like, see, I knew it was coming.
Just wait for the crucial spell and just be like, either you kill me or you try and win.
Oh yeah, well I knew they had Thoracle in hand. I could just feel it in my gut that they were trying to win with Thoracle versus Food Chain, because their Atraxa had been solituded. There was a rule of law in play. Thrasios Dargo wasn't like, we had Nature's Claim their greater good, because they cast good and then cast Dargo, and yeah, it was just a hell of a game. And yeah, it literally came down to the last like 7-10 minutes, something like that. And I've been offering draws for the past two turn cycles, and I just look at the clock and I look at my hand, which at this point is just like, it's like offer, dispel, force of will. Like I have all of this counter magic and removal. I have the op in play again, because I opt Atraxa's like Enlightened Tutor or something at one point. There is a Drannith Magistrate in play, and I just look at my hand and I look at the table, and I was like, guys, there are only 7 minutes left. I will end this game in a draw. I can play table police. Let's just ID. And if you don't agree, I'm pretty sure the Rocco player can't win from this position because of op, and they don't have a removal spell for it because they're hellbent. So I will just start giving them spirits with Forbidden Orchard to feed their Winota to lock the table. But there's also a shot they could win if we do this. So you should just draw. And yeah, we forced it. But
I had a similar thing with the Forbidden. I had 2 lands in hand, and it was me playing against James on Garrison and Tyler on Zada. And so either I give James lightning bolts or I give Zada creatures.
I feel at that point you literally just try not to ever activate the Forbidden Orchard.
Well, I literally... Oh, go ahead.
I did end up making a deal, though, with James where every spirit I gave him, he can't attack me with it, only goes at Tyler.
That's great.
Nice. I got like screamed at by one of the players in the pod because I refused to block a Wirewood symbiote that was swinging for Atraxa and kill it. And they're like, "You're throwing, why the hell would you do this?" And me, on turn 6 at this point, staring at still one land and a mana dork that is left, and one mana dork in my graveyard that the Atraxa player shot. I'm going, if they don't get attacks with Winota and stall the game with Snax pieces, there's no possible way I don't lose. So, I don't know. Calculated. But I think that's a big part of like tournament play is just like making sure that you're playing to like the timer and like calculating points as you go. Like figuring out when it's optimal to ID, which games you can afford to lose and which ones you can't.
I feel like for at least most of the tournaments that we've all done, like they've all been like 4-round Swiss, and most of the time you just need like a 2-win record to get there. Like
usually that's good enough to get to a top.
Yeah, usually like 2 wins, 1 draw is usually I think the ideal to go for like minimum points.
Unless you're cutting to top 4.
Yeah,
if it's cutting to top 4 on like on a smaller event,
you need as many wins as possible.
Yeah, you need at minimum 3 wins,
which is a hard ask.
Yeah. Well, I squeaked into top 4 on 2 wins and a draw and a loss for that event that we did the other week, which isn't great. But also my draw was against the first and second seat, which is how my breakers were good enough to get me in. So I had 2 wins and then I drew against first and second.
Was that the tournament I was less than 0.1% away, less than 1% away from top 4?
Yeah, that was so unfortunate.
That's tough.
And then you guys didn't get to play the game because of the guy who beat me by less than 1%.
Yeah, he had to go to work or whatever, which is a bummer. But
that one was weird. Why would you do the tournament on a day you have work, especially CDH? Those events go all day.
They didn't think it would. It was his first tournament. He's a legacy player. He was like, "There's no way this goes all day."
Yeah, especially with Top Cut, like that's an extra like 2 hours right there. At least.
Yeah, unless the game ends on turn 2 and it's just over.
That's true.
But yeah, it's I think there's a lot to keep in mind when you're like prepping for the tournaments. Like we were saying, there's like the structure, there's what you expect the meta to be. Because like going down to this event last week, I was expecting there to be a lot more blue farm, like a lot of blue farm. There was literally one person playing Team Macron.
I was very surprised at that too.
And they didn't even get close to top 4.
Yeah, I played against one Crom deck. I saw Atraxa twice.
Yeah,
Atraxa was way more of a relevant thing. I don't think there was any. I didn't see any like Winota or Yuriko.
No stacks.
I think there was a decent amount of like Thrasios decks kind of milling around. There was a couple people on farm. It was kind of to be expected.
It was pretty diverse, all things considered.
No, there
were 3 Kenrith players. Three Kenrith players, who I think that was the most represented commander. I believe was Kenrith, followed by like Rocco and Farm, and then I think after that it was like a couple of random Thrasios X decks,
Traxxas,
and a bunch of like one-offs. Like there was a Jahada list, which was sweet.
That list was
one of our buddies
was sweet.
Yeah, it was. One of our buddies was playing the new Hidetsugu and Kairi, experimenting with that. So there were a bunch of interesting things.
No, I didn't really know what to like expect. I definitely was anticipating Blue Farm and like Tim Natana. I was expecting just value machines out the wazoo in the command zone. Like, here's the best junk that we could do, you know. But it was definitely more, not necessarily off meta, but like step down, I guess, like tier 1.5.
Which I don't hate. It means that it's more diverse. Yeah. Like I had built Blue Farm to practice with our new buddy who hasn't really been to a lot of tournaments before. Just so I had it put together so that he could practice against the matchup and understand how it worked. And I was playing that deck, and I was not happy playing that deck. No one at the table was happy playing against that deck. It's a snoozer. Like the deck does one thing and it maybe 2, and it does them really, really, really well. but it's just not engaging to play against, and it's not engaging to play. It is. I got into a disagreement with somebody else at the event because we were talking about different decks, and I was telling them how I had been playing it for I had been playing a lot of matches with it, and how even as the pilot, that deck just feels brain dead. Like the most complex thing about playing Blue Farm, in my opinion, is the fact that there are counter spells and removal spells, and you have to know what to counter and remove, which is the same as any blue deck, any form of deck that plays any type of control.
Oh no,
there's no
Sorry, finish it.
There's no intricacy in the lines. There's no like subtlety. There's no, oh, this is really cool, I'm gonna do this thing that's like a line that I don't think probably hardly anyone has thought of or seen before. It's just, yep, I will cast Intuition. Yes, I will Entomb, Savine's Wreck, Breach, LED. Yes, I will win the game. I will see like 40 cards before I do this, and then I'll cast a Silence, and then I'll do the thing. Or I'll resolve a turn 2 ad naus and do the thing. But the deck's not cool. The deck is good. The deck is not cool, in my opinion.
You forget about the intricacy of Breach. You might have to exile a crucial card to cast your LED for your Brain Freeze.
Yeah, how bad would that be? Oh no, I can't. I now cannot Pact of Negation from my graveyard on my combo turn. I will have to instead resolve one of my 9 copies of Brain Freeze, and then do it again. Like, I don't know.
It's just a honk shoer of a deck. Like, honk me, like all the way. It sneezes and draws cards and does win attempts. It does its one of 2 win attempts pretty well, but like.
You can't say it's bad.
It's not bad, but it's
not cool. It's not.
It's just cringe. Like
it's cringe
farm.
But yeah, Rocco's a neat deck. I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool things that can perform just as well. Rocco ended up with no top 4 match. Rocco ended up placing first going into the top 4.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Rocco for the win.
Yeah, you're a Rocco.
Contemplating bringing Rocco back to Gabis Season 2, Volume 2, just to defend his title.
It's worth defending the title. I think our previous champion, because this will be the tournament. This will be the 3rd tournament that Gabis has thrown. Our first time champ ran back their winner. I feel like it's only appropriate, but also
I just have to grind it. Oh, I forgot all the lines. Alice saw me playing it the other day. I was a mess.
It was not pretty.
I was not a mess playing that deck.
Like, what do I Rocco for here? And I'm going, please not your shard, please not your shard, please not your shard, please not your shard.
Actually, okay, that's a decent transition.
At least I knew. Yeah.
How much grinding do y'all like put in, or like ideally want to put in? Because I think unless I'm like on a brand new deck and I'm trying to figure stuff out, which may or may not happen for this next big tournament. At least going into this last one, like I brought Calamax. I didn't do great with Calamax. I'm gonna put Calamax away. But I didn't feel like I need to like grind a lot with that deck. A lot of it was like just matchup and like flow of the game and like understanding how everything else is working. It's not necessarily like my deck versus the matchups. Like most of the matchups, like I'm gonna understand most of the time what people are gonna try and do, and I have the tools to be able to deal with it. But it's just like it's not a deck that I need to like hardcore practice my lines and remember everything. Like I remember all my lines. They're not hard.
I think for me, it's probably, it depends on the deck. Of course, you're playing a more complicated deck, but it's more like make sure you practice how you play. Like go in tournament, make sure you time it exactly how it is. Make sure you follow all the, like try to play competitively in this non-competitive area, and just trying to just play how the event will go.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Against diverse decks, not the same friend group decks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we try and that's something I've been trying to do, is because I feel pretty comfortable with my lines at this point. Unless I make any major changes to a list, I'm with you. It's like I don't feel the need to grind a specific deck once I feel comfortable and I know my combo routes. At that point, it's just
more memory there.
Yeah, it's like muscle memory, and I feel more the need to practice like interacting and maintaining game state and like rules interactions and things like that. So I'll spend time like reviewing different interactions of cards that I think might come up, and like familiarizing myself with the meta and stuff. And then of course playing other decks that I think might be there, so I can like it just in practice games with friends beforehand, just so that I get the idea of like how their game plans are sort of running and what I can expect to see from them. Sort of like Blue Farm, like I was saying, I had that put together. But
I feel like the biggest thing that we all started doing like leading up to the first major was like a week and a half, 2 weeks beforehand, we said, okay, anytime we're not playing like our usual weekly, like whenever we're just getting together for the night, like we're all playing Comp REL, we're all on the timer, we're all going to be holding each other like to these standards. Because I think for a lot of us, that was like our first like major tournament that we all went to. So it was a lot of like, we need to get these things down pat. We need to make sure like we are up to snuff on our game, you know. Miss triggers, sorry. Everyone needs to maintain the rule of law. As stacks player, you need to be on top of your stacks pieces. You need to not be, we're going to hold each other to slow play and stuff like that. I think a lot of that is important, especially when you're rolling to a tournament like with your friend group. Like making sure everyone is familiar with how Comp REL is run is so huge. It just, even from like 60 card format, like you can, it pretty straightforward. You just can't walk things back, and like your intentions mean a lot more. But I feel like in Commander, like Comp REL is hard. It's a hard thing to manage.
Oh, for sure.
Like just with the like how stacks, like it's the whole table's like priority to handle, mainly the stacks player, but like everyone has to like understand that we're all responsible for the stacks pieces and maintain the game state. Like that alone is so fucking huge.
Oh, for sure. And I think that even that goes back to sort of a comment that I made earlier, where it's like it's important to know what kind of tournament you're going to, because if the event's like not being run, like you can have competitive tournaments that aren't being run at Comp REL, so the rules enforcement level at competitive, where mistriggers, detrimental triggers, there's a whole bunch of like intricacies regarding rules and judge calls that change when you go from regular rules enforcement to competitive rules enforcement. And I think practicing with that is really important. Making sure that you understand some of the common judge calls that could come up, making sure that you understand when and how to call a judge, like things like that are really important for comp. Because we had a newer player with us this last weekend that you were saying was playing Hidetsugu, and there were a couple points where I was watching some of their games, and not that anything was like necessarily off color, but there were just some complications in their games that I could see they were like tentative about, and they were kind of like unsure how to handle it. And it's that kind of thing where it's like at that point you just call a judge. It doesn't matter if you think it's going to be rude or whatever. You just apologize to the table for taking their time, but you just don't understand it and you call a judge. I literally waited 5 minutes for a judge to show up as I asked for an interaction about a Gitrog monster combo, because we all know that deck's weird, and I just wanted to make sure I was interacting at the correct place.
I don't even think calling judges is like, oh no, my bad. It's not tattling all. It's just making sure everyone's on the same page. Using the judge as the same page.
Oh yeah, and I think some people get their butts hurt about it. Like when you call a judge, they take it personally. Like I know that in that game with the Gitrog call, we were waiting for literally 5 minutes for a judge to show up because they were off doing something else. And so we were sitting there, and the whole time, like I had players telling me, "No, just go, just do it. We know how the interaction works. Here's how the interaction works." And they're telling me this, and I'm like, I believe you that that's how the interaction works. I just need to hear it from the judge so that nobody can run it back. Say, oh, now that we know you have this spell, that's not how the interaction actually works when the judge comes back or when something else comes up. Not that anyone would try to cheat, but there could just be like a miscommunication, or like there's room for finagling in something as complex as like dredge combos, or if there's a very intricate stack or something like that. And I think it's really important to have that clarified.
And
go for it.
Yeah, we're not like, if you're playing a board game with people, if there's something you don't know, you're going to pull out the rule book. We're not going to pull out the magic rule book. The judge is the rule book at Commander, so we'll pull out the judge.
Exactly.
The living rule book. No, I heard it like explained to me. It's like, calling a judge doesn't make you like a shark or like whatever. It's making sure that we are all understanding the game state and how the game works. Like that is not bad. In most cases, I would say that is a good thing that everyone is understandable about how the game works, because if you have to misrepresent the game state to win a game, you're not a good player on at least two different levels.
For sure. And it's not even that someone would try to intentionally misrepresent sometimes.
Or like misguided,
but like they might
whatever.
just misunderstand. And I can't tell you, like, I've judged events before. I've seen a lot of judge calls. I can't tell you the number of times that a quote unquote judge call is the judge comes over to the table, someone says, "This is what's happening. What should we do?" And the judge says, "Okay, this has occurred, this has occurred, this has occurred." And they just basically re-narrate the past like 10, 20 steps of the game that occurred, and everyone goes, "Yes, that's what happened." And the judge goes, "Okay, then move this card here. Problem solved." And everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine."
Magic's hard, dude. Magic's hard.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just once they just narrate the game back to everyone historically, and everyone hears it, and they're like, "Oh, actually, I just didn't understand how stuff was occurring or where stuff occurred." It's fine. Yeah, so I think that is just, I think, like you said, calling a judge doesn't make you a shark or a scumbag. It just means that you're confused and need help.
Yeah, that's literally it.
The other thing about playing in a tournament, I think, is aside from like practice and like making sure to call a judge, is like maintaining your mental.
Oh god,
during the event.
That's a huge one. My mental was so not good at the tournament this last week. It was not good. Like, I went into my last round just like fucking doomer as hell. I didn't care how the game went. I like made a piss poor attempt at like a kitten line that wasn't gonna get there. But I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just doing it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the Atraxa player is so fucking far ahead. Like, the farm player got knocked out of the game. There was a Dranith on turn 1, so the Yisan player is out of the game. Like, this doesn't matter. It doesn't. They resolved a Oko and then resolved a kitten and cast spells, and it was so bad. No, I went into the tournament expecting to do better than I did, and then drew game 1, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I feel like I played that game like decently well.
I don't know. I feel like drawing your first game just kind of ruins you. You're like, there's no possible way of coming back.
Well, the way I looked at it was like, well, I didn't lose my game. I have a point. I am on the board. Like, I can say I didn't go 0 points, right? And then like my next game, I felt pretty good, and then like I fought a Thrasios player over a Seaborn Muse, and then we lost to an Adnaz. But I didn't really care because I tilted the fuck out of that guy, and I'm still smiling about it. I don't know. Like, if you have to go into your next match and bitch about me for the next 15 minutes of everyone else's time, I'm winning. I'm sorry. I lost the game. I won the war. It's something about just hearing like people like bitch about me, like, yeah, I'm invading your mind. How's it going?
Get to live here, rent free.
Yeah. And that game was just like whatever. And then my game 3, I'm like, I was so over it. Like, I felt pretty good. And then our local Zada player, our Zada enjoyer, like stormed out from like right under me. Like, I had everything set up. I was in total control, and they just had to go for it, and they got there in spectacular fashion. And then last time, just like, I'm just done. But no, like, my mental state was declining the whole day. It didn't help that I was like pretty hungry throughout the day, and I didn't bring water, which was big mistakes.
Oh, big
mistakes. I got like sparkling water like after round 2, and like we went out. We got like a slice of pizza afterwards, but no, like, next tournament I'm bringing my water bottle, and that thing is staying attached to me because holy shit, I was so tired. Like that alone would have probably saved my mental.
You always gotta bring water, snacks, and I even bring ibuprofen to tournaments.
Honestly, that's probably smart.
And it's just more snacks than you think you'll eat.
I was talking to one of the players who was in our party for this last week, and they were saying, like, normally they take their pain meds in the morning when they get up. They literally waited until like half an hour before the event to take their meds. And they said they do that every time they play in a major event, just so they know that the meds are going to be working and kicked in during the game.
That's fair.
I was like, that makes a lot of sense. That's really smart. I think when it comes to like maintaining that mental state though, and that focus, it is really important, like you were saying, to stay hydrated. I know that I always keep a beverage, like, even if I'm not drinking it during the round, like really close to hand, so that I can have something, and then making sure that you take breaks whenever you can.
Oh god, yeah. Especially with
there was a
go for it.
There was a 4-round Swiss at this last event, and there was no lunch break or anything like that because they weren't doing a cut, which I mean, I
It's
guess
whatever,
like
yeah.
it's kind of whatever, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like there should be like at least like a 15 or 20 minute break in between rounds, just so like everyone, because that's realistically that's no amount of time. And if you're playing in one of these events, you shouldn't be treating it like an afternoon. You should be treating it
It's
as though it's
event.
going to take at minimum 6 hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So an extra 20 minutes to just like let everyone rest in between rounds like 2 and 3, I think would have been really, really beneficial, even if it's not like a quote unquote lunch break.
Yeah, that one tournament we did where the judge gave us like 10 to 15, I forget which one, minutes after each round was just blissful. Just decompressing after every game.
Oh, like
just make sure that you're going to be on it for the next one.
Nothing ruins like a tournament for me of just like going to time and immediately need to shuffle over to the next table. Holy shit! Just no time to like sit, think, walk outside, get some air, just get it all out and go into the next game. Like just one after another is ruins me. I think at the first meet.
Well, that happened to me during one of my games at the last Gabis tournament, which also shout out, we're doing the next one on May 20th. So for anyone who's listening, should show up. We're all going to be there. Man on the Rocks crew.
Man on the Rocks crew.
Jayden will be there. So you can get to meet him. But yeah, I won a game in round 3 going to round 4, and so like no lunch break or whatever, but there was no rest. So it was actually a brutal day because I went to turns on my game 2, went 30 minutes into the lunch break because of turns. So I had a really, really reduced lunch. Went into game 3. That also went to turns. Finished that, won that one, and then went immediately into game 4. But like pairings were up, and like people were waiting to be in the chair that I was cleaning my stuff up from going into round 4, and I was sweating. I was like, oh my god, like I just need to breathe. I need a time extension just for sitting down.
Yeah, no, I think at the first major that we did at Gabby's, I didn't get a break between literally my first 3 rounds. I think it's not that we went to time, I think, for all of them, and we ate up so much of the time that as soon as like we were literally the last pot every time, like ate through the entire lunch break. I think I got like 2 minutes to slam down like 6 McNuggets and like take a swig of water and then just like right back into the fucking fray. It was miserable. But
they're brutal.
The one we went up north, I'm so glad they were like, we're gonna wait for everybody to be done and then we'll start our hour. I'm like, holy shit, that's incredible.
I think that's honestly a really good way to do it. If you just set aside the day, like assume your players are going to set aside the day, and if they don't, if they drop, like that's kind of on them. If they made other plans, because they should be assuming that any major tournament is going to be an all day event. The whole deal there where they said, okay, we're going to start the 1 hour lunch break after the last pod has concluded. So everyone gets at least an hour to rest.
God,
yeah. I think that was great.
Like, even if you want to like reduce, like for tournament, like time's sake, like reduce it like 45 minutes, like a half hour, just like waiting for everybody to be done and then doing lunch.
And then start that timer.
It's so huge.
I think there's also the whole aspect of like tournament structure can play a lot into like how well a tournament is organized. Can play into like how well like people do, just because confusion can be unsettling, especially when you're in a new environment and stuff. So like having your player meeting ahead of time, making sure everyone's on the same page about rules and rules enforcement level and all of that stuff, making sure that everyone's aware of like the different like time constraints, whether it's turns or X amount of time no turns, because I know that was an issue at this last one, is the TO didn't like, they posted it but like they didn't announce it. And then so like somebody got confused, and then one of the players got mad because they didn't pay attention, and so that was really like that was a bit of an issue. But like at that point, it's like they were like, "No, this is how it's been before, so we're doing turns." It's like, bro, even if the TO like purposefully didn't tell you, you can't adjust the rules. Like, and that wasn't what happened up here, of course. But you can't just like say, no, the rules don't apply to my game. I'm gonna take turns. Like that's not how that works. So, but yeah, so like making sure that uncertainty is reduced as much as possible, I think can be really beneficial for players. I don't know. Personally, I'm a turns person. I like 2 turns per living player, and I know it takes longer and it can be really grindy, but also I think it leads to the most accurate game results, and I think it reduces draws a lot. Mm-hmm. The other thing, I guess, is buys. Like, How do you guys feel about buys in competitive play, like tournament, like not CEDH but like TEDH?
Buys I think are simultaneously important and incredibly like tournament ruining. Especially it just depends on how much like the points are worth for buy. We talked about like degradation for points. Yeah, I like if I go into my round 4 and I get a buy, I should not be getting full points for like a win. I think
not that it would matter anyways if you're getting the buy because
you're
in last,
you're
but
dead last. But like that's weird. I feel like that makes a lot of the points weird. I think it messes up your tiebreakers as well.
I think buys in 2 and 3 rounds of Swiss brutal. If you get a buy, like you're either gonna be in the top cut or you're no shot, and there's no in between.
Jayden, you want to say something?
Yeah. Every time I get a buy, I feel like I've cheated the people playing the tournament who are actually playing. And every time I see someone else get a buy, I feel like I get cheated a little. Like sometimes like at the last tournament where I was like less than 1% away from top 4, I got a buy in that tournament, and so on one hand I feel like I'm at least I get 5th place, but also I could have gotten top 4 if I played that game and won.
Yeah, your tiebreakers would have been better. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. I was playing in this last event, and I was literally seated at the table. And this was another organization issue. I was seated at the table with my pod, and we had shuffled our decks. We'd presented for cuts. Everyone had revealed their commanders. Like we were literally like determining turn order right there because it was randomized. And Tio goes, all right, we're doing a repair now. And I was like, wait, what? And so repair happens. I end up getting a buy with 2 other players. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So like, cause we traveled to go there. It was not a big buy-in. It was $20, but like I was there to play Magic and I got slighted like at least one of my games, which is disappointing. Like I just wanted to play Magic. But the funny thing about that was that first table was literally the top 4. That's literally the top 4. Know that. That was really funny. Yeah, I realized it last night after we got home.
Okay.
I was like, wait a minute. It was literally me and Rocco and T-Dark and the other Kenneth player. And I was like, oh, that was literally the top 4 cut. I was like, oh, interesting. So that would have been really cool. We would have been able to play that game. We didn't. Yeah. But yeah, I got the buy, and I felt like I slighted other people who had to work really hard for their win round 1. It's like I didn't deserve to be in top 4 by that metric. Like I was only there because I got a free win. Mm-hmm. Not that I would or wouldn't have been there otherwise, but it's just like you never know.
That's true. No, I'm very curious to see how our next major turns out, because we're working a system where we specifically are not going to have a buy. Like it is pretty much impossible for us to have a buy unless we have like exactly 1 extra player, right?
I think it's that, or like they might, if there's like a drop or something, they might buy players.
Yeah.
But basically, so our shop is really good about like trying to tweak things and improve always. So they're doing a system. They're experimenting. They're doing a top 10 cut, which has been determined to be optimal for player amounts less than 64 but higher than 32. And so 64 down would be a top 10 cut, where first and second seed are secured for a top 4 cut, and then players ranked 3rd through 10th after the 4th round of Swiss play in 2 pods that are seeded by ranking to determine seats 3 and 4, which I think makes a lot of sense. It can save time because you'll have fewer number of pods to finish in semis, but it also means that you aren't stuck going from like theoretically a 54 player count down to a top 4, which feels terrible for everyone involved.
I feel like top 4,
that's just an awful way of doing it.
I feel like top 4 cut worked like probably for the first few like major tournaments or like smaller tournaments, like medium-sized tournaments, probably like as people were figuring stuff out, like yeah, sure, this makes sense. And over time we just went, this doesn't make sense at all.
I think 32 down, I think your sample size is small enough that top 4 makes sense. But I think up 33 up, up to 64. I think 33 to 64.
You need a top cut.
You need a larger size because there aren't enough players that one misplay, or especially at Combat Royale, like a single mistrigger could, in theory, alter the winner of a game.
I just drew that one card off
where
this
some person like, yeah, exactly. Somebody was supposed to win the game because they were playing super well, and then somebody else misses their own pack trigger, dies, and because of that, like a dockside count disappears, or a stacks piece leaves the game, or something like that, and somebody else randomly wins the game. Or like your matchups are terrible because matchups do exist in the exact same way that they do in 60 card formats, though they're spread a little bit differently in competitive Commander. So like that's all of that can affect win rates, and so giving people the if you go effectively undefeated in Swiss, which is what 1 and 2 would generally be doing in a tournament size 33 to 64,
close, like
or really close, like 301 or something.
Like you're X1 better.
Yeah. Then that makes, I think that securing that spot makes sense. But also the other players who don't have that quite as perfect a record should be playing. I feel like they get the chance to redeem themselves.
I enjoy the top 10 cut because before then there was 2 tournaments where I went 4-0, and then I lost the first game in the next 4 games for semis, and then I was just like, okay, I'm out of it. And it was so
knocked
sad.
out for your semis, like after going undefeated, is a rough. It's got to be rough. Couldn't be me.
Yeah, because you did earn your way to the top cut if you truly went undefeated, or basically undefeated. I think I would agree with that. But I also think that like anyone who didn't quite get that close, maybe they're like 2-1-1 or 2-0-2 or something like that, they've done well enough, but it shouldn't come down to tiebreakers to determine 3rd and 4th seeds, which is, I think, a lot of times what it comes down to.
The only thing that was kind of odd to me at the last Gabis tournament where they did the top 10 was I got 2nd seat going into top 10, and so I had the whole hour break, and I literally went downstairs and took a nap, and I felt like I went into the final game with this just way better mental, because the other 3 and 4 had to go straight into the final match.
I think it depends on the person too, because like I would never take a nap in between rounds, because I know if I wake up, I would be so out of it going into the next round. I'd be like, yes, I'll cast my Mystic Remora in my app.
I need like an hour to like reboot once I wake up, so I can't nap like that. Like that just kills me.
I'm one of those players who it's like the more I play, the better I get. Like in a game of attrition, I will be the winner. like I will play for 14 hours straight, and I will be hitting all of my triggers. I will be playing perfectly at the end of this 14 hours. And then as long as you're taking care of yourself, of course, like make sure you eat and drink and stuff. But like, and other people will be there going, man, Jayden's over here like downing his 3rd batch of Advil. Like I'm so tired.
Yeah, I feel like in long drawn out tournaments, I used to be like pretty decent at handle it, and now I'm just like, I just have bad habits of like, nah, I'm fine. I'll just keep going. Break, rest, water. I don't even know her, and I'm just like, we're just gonna keep going. But especially after this last one, I have learned the value of just like, no, like. Take your time. Like my last round, like we literally ended the game in like 30 minutes. Like that's how bad of a stomp down it was.
Oh Jesus!
Like, man, where was all this time earlier? You know?
Yeah. You could have gotten stomped in round 2 and then recovered, and then round 3 and 4 maybe taken some games
or something. I don't know. It could have gone like 1.5 million different ways. Yeah. But no, like.
But I like the top 10 cut, like you were saying, Jayden. It feels really well balanced. It makes a lot of sense mathematically, I think, because you don't get people with like straight up losing records or anything like that bubbling in, unless things are really strange on tiebreakers and stuff like that. But I also think that like removing buys also increases the option for like feels better situations, because even though you might end up being stuck playing a 3-pod, which everyone I think agrees is not optimal, but it's better than a buy where somebody just like bubbles in because they have a free win, and if somebody says, oh, but tiebreakers will fix it one more time, I'm gonna slap them because they don't. I had the best. I was in 4th seat, and I had the best tiebreakers in the entire tournament at like 90% because I drew with seats 1 and 2. It was tiebreakers don't fix buys.
Yeah, tiebreakers are always like a weird thing when it comes to tournament standing. I don't know. It's you're either living by them or you're dying by them. There is literally zero in between.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't think that in a game that we want to be skill based and we want to call competitive,
you want as few coin flips as possible.
Yeah, as few coin flips as possible. And sure, you can say a 3-pod is not what you designed your deck for, but if your deck cannot survive in a 3-pod, I don't think that card is viable. Because to me, the whole thing about CEDH is it's taking what's like competitive, like 1v1 format, so like a duel, and it's turning it into a competitive like battle format, like a war or whatever. It's like there are four warring powers, like your decks or whatever, and then it's your job to command your army through to victory. It's like global obliteration or whatever. But
global,
like it's just the difference of that. Like world domination. But you should be able to pilot your deck in different scenarios, and you should prepare for different scenarios. Because I mean, if you extrapolate the idea of CEDH is EDH just in a competitive environment, and TEDH is just competitive EDH played on a timer at competitive rules enforcement levels, then ergo you're playing EDH under competitive rules enforcement under a timer, and I don't think you could find a single person who is an avid like comp or casual EDH player who has not played a 3 or a 5 pod at some point in their life. And if it comes down to a 3 or a 5 pod, nobody in their right mind would select a 5 pod, especially if you're playing on time.
It's really funny hearing people complain about like 3 and 5 pods when literally one of my favorite memories of like playing EDH was playing like 8 to 10 person pods.
Oh God! Please stay away from me. Please stay away from me.
I could do one of those now because holy shit! But this was also when I was like 18. I had like nothing to do. We could stay up forever. It didn't matter. Like we would play until like 2, 3 in the morning. It's just like it was great. Like we just got everyone that was in the shop at the time. Like, hey, we're putting together a giant table. Let's all play together. Fucking miserable.
Don't forget you were rolling the planar die during that too.
Very rarely, no. Actually, one of the more common ways we did that, because like these were a pretty common like way to end out the night. Like we'd end F&M early, and we'd all like a bunch of us would get together and play like a giant game. I think we called it Kingdoms. Essentially, it was like Mafia or like Secret Hitler, where like everyone had like
what the hell?
No, it was actually kind of legit. Although it was ruined by combo kills. However, I fixed that. So everyone like had roles and stuff. Essentially, one person would be the king, and the king would have 2 knights to protect him. And there's an assassin, and there was one that the usurper, who also like tries to kill the king, but they become the king, and the assassin just wants to kill the king. And then there were just like peasants basically. But it was all hidden role. The only person that you knew who was the king, and the king had a higher life count. And the whole point was the king needs to survive. So it was like 10 turns or whatever. The king wins with the knights if the king lives, and then everyone else had their own roles. Essentially, it devolved into like who can combo the fastest. Like it was almost CDH-esque and like just combo and you win the game. And I'm just like, well, how do I fix this? I'm like, yes, the jester role.
Oh no.
I had to word that role very, very specifically that you could not like essentially KO yourself. Like you had to be like killed by someone else. Like you drain your life down to 1, that's fine. However, if you like tap your city of brass, like you don't win from that trigger.
Yeah, man. If I want to do that, I just play coup or something.
Yeah, at this point, like there are so many better games that like take that formula. It was just us being like, we want to play with as many people as possible. I could not do that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't know. This sounds like your game of attrition, Atlas.
Oh god.
Yeah, but that's a different type of attrition.
Holy shit! The amount of times that we would have people like, wait, is it my turn? No, it's their turn. Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean my lands are mountains? When did someone play a blood moon?
Dear God, that sounds awful.
No, good times. I could not play one of those now. But anyway, like
imagine controlling the board state.
Oh God. No, you literally couldn't. You could not. But anyway, yeah, it's funny hearing people complain about 3 and 5 person pods because I'm just like, it's whatever, dude. Like that's kind of EDH. He's just kind of commander. Like you're gonna roll with these punches.
Well, some of the arguments I hear is like Tibbet's unviable. Tymna's so much worse. It's like, sure, Tymna gets worse, but like aside from that, there are other combos you can play in your decks, and if you're relying on all players being alive and available at all times, like for a time seed combo or something, like that's just not going to happen in all of your games, which would intrinsically make your deck unviable. Which is why those decks play things like Grim Hireling or Academy Manufacturer or whatever. And it's like Najeela doesn't need 3 opponents in the pod because they have Derevi, or they have like Grim Hireling and Facebreaker, or they can like go play one of any 9 other combo pieces if they think it's a possibility. So I don't know. I just think it's weird to complain about what is basically an aspect of the game that you should anticipate seeing in every situation other than this one. You know what I think it is? I think it's people who play Dockside Extortionists wanting their Dockside to be more fed, and they're just whining in the meantime. Which, as a Dockside player, I will whine with you, but I would also rather play a 3-pod than get a buy.
Yeah, I like your Dockside's a variable anyway. This is just another variable.
It could be 0 in against 3 turbo players. It could still be 0.
Yeah, I very much agree with what you said, and to those Tivit players, I just have to say, Tivit D's. You ever consider that?
Tivit D's, Joe. What?
Yeah, Tivit D's, get over yourself. It's a game. Anyhow, yeah, I especially with like Najeela in that circumstance, like usually you're able to farm off one person and then just get there, right? Like if
or you have Thoracle, or you have Breach, or you have your 5 colors. You have every win condition in the format.
Like, yeah, I don't. I just don't understand it. Like you're just kind of finding anything to complain about.
I don't know. It's different preferences. I understand where they're coming from.
This
isn't what I signed up for, but I also disagree strongly.
Yeah, I think when it comes to tournaments, I am there to play Magic at a high level and to try and perform well, and that's kind of it.
And especially if you're in a battle, you need to be flexible and you need to be able to adapt to different circumstances. So, like, if that's the case, if you're truly assessing skill, you should be able to still pilot to a victory even under suboptimal circumstances. Because, I mean, we can all agree going 4th is a very suboptimal circumstance.
Not if I have Dockside in hand, in which case I want there to be 4 players and not 3. But I definitely prefer 5 in that situation because it means my Dockside's bigger. But like,
I would prefer 5 in that situation.
Like, 4 is ideal though.
I don't know. It's interesting.
It's all just noise to me. It's all just noise. Tournaments are cool though. I like competing. Despite my terrible mental anguish at the last tournament, I like competing. I like chances to prove like my worth beyond like my words and whatever else. Like I think you can talk and you can theorize and you can do all of this, but at the end of the day, like
you have to generate
some results. You got to be on the scoreboard somewhere, you know.
Well, I like going to tournaments and playing my non-Thoracle, non-Breach, non-ad nauseum 5-color deck, and people saying, "What the hell are you playing? How do you even win the game?" Which literally happened this weekend, and that was the highlight of my day.
I love when people criticize my deck and then either they lose because of me or lose to me.
It's a great feeling. That's a fantastic feeling.
I literally had I'm doing my storm things and people are trying to figure out how to interact with me, and they're like, "Well, what if he's playing this?" I was like, "I'll be straight with you. I'm not playing that." "What if he does that?" "I am also not playing that." And they're like, "What the fuck is happening?"
It's why I like Chainer so much.
Mid-tier jank, baby.
Sure, you're gonna try to do these things. I'm not doing these things though. It's a fantastic feeling where you're just like, haha, I have deceived you.
Well, I mean, like, Jayden, when you were playing Rocco, there were definitely some cards. Like, some of the cards where you're like, I'm going to put this in play. People are like, what the hell?
I was called stupid by like 3 people for not being on Birthing Pod or Survival in my finalized list.
Wait, were you not on those cards? I knew you weren't on Birthing Pod, but Survival is an interesting choice.
Yeah, I decided that the only thing that I really want to grab at instant speed is endurance, and that was cool and all. And then, tutoring for creatures is fun, but I'd rather just play down the creatures in my hand and tutor what I need with Rocco.
That's fair.
It got me the win. It got me the first place. So
it did get you first place.
I'm not knocking it. Just Survival feels like such an easy
so I would decision. Probably play Survival before Birthing Pod as well if I ever found room for it.
Yeah, because that's fair. You just get to throw out Oof for free and never care about removing it at that point.
Also lets you play through.
I was always going for turn 2 Rocco on Oof or Dranith.
Yeah,
and that was kind of my game plan.
Those are good game plans. Those are very good game plans. Do y'all like shift your game plans at all going into like bigger tournaments?
It depends. Actually, during tournaments, I look at the scoreboard if it's applicable, see who I could possibly be matched against, and I will walk around at the tables and just look at the decks and just see what they're playing.
Keep an
see if there's any
idea of
spies.
what to keep
take
up for.
notes on
Yeah.
what everyone is playing.
I don't know, I feel like that's kind of just part of like the tournament experience, in my opinion.
That's pretty standard, I think. My tech is to when I sit down at a table, just like because my deck is so, assuming I'm playing Kenrith, my deck is so strange and just so far off the meta, I will just lay out my game plan in front of everyone and be like, look, I play Displacer Kitten. I do not play any of these cards. I promise you for a fact that I will never lie to you. I may not tell you the full truth always, but I will never tell you a lie. And my base game plan is to play Drago Control in 5 color. And people will be like, yeah, right. And then I'll be like, land, dork, pass. And then turn 2 will be like, land, pass, land, pass, land, pass. And they're just going, what the? And I was like, this is my game plan. I'm just here to stop other people from winning until I see an opening. And they're like, oh. And it takes a lot of heat off me just because I'm playing like a weird off-meta deck. How about you, Joe? What is your go-to move?
Think I have much of a go-to move. I when I was on Chainer, everyone was just like, oh, hit you, I'm on Adnaz. I'm like, I'm not on Adnaz. Like, I'm not gonna tell you that I'm on Ballista Citadel though. Like, I'm definitely on Breach, but like I just always throw like, I'm not on Adnaz. Like, we can team up to like hit the other Adnaz player at the table. That's usually my go-to. It's just like, I'm not on this card, don't hit me. Like, we can take care of the person that we need to hit. I don't know. I really don't have like much of that. I like recently everyone's like, oh, Calimax goes fast. I'm like, this is a beat stick that I occasionally copy counter spells with. Like I stop people with this. Everyone's like, oh, you're gonna go fast. I'm like, I stop people. I hit people.
Yeah.
I have a counter spell deck.
I hit the Nas player. I hit the black.
That's exactly how I played
player. Like I don't understand. Like, why are you hating the dinosaur? You're like, oh, you're gonna dig through time twice. Yeah, but like it's pretty obvious when I'm gonna do that. Like,
yeah, my favorite strategy, though it is not mine, is from our it's one of it's Jayden's younger brother actually, but he goes into he is younger and he looks really young and he goes into tournaments and he'll pull out like a tier 2 like level C commander and I'll be like, hello everyone, I have just recently started playing Magic. I'm kind of new, so like be gentle with me and that kind of deal. And people are like, oh, okay, cool. Tell us what your deck is. Yeah, this is my girlfriend's boyfriend's deck. We're like, yeah, this was built for me by so and so. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then he'll like come out and he'll like, and he has a solid grasp on the game. And people are like, wait a minute, this isn't right.
Our Zada player just did that at the tournament that you guys were at, and he was telling me the story, and I was just laughing. It was hilarious.
He's like, Zeta.
Yeah, Zeta, Hedron, looks at the card, Grinder.
Yeah, I don't really like do a lot of that. I just like whenever I get to a table, I'm just like smiley, happy, like talking to people like, oh, this is a cool deck. Like, can't wait to like be beaten over the head with it. Like, I'm usually like self-degradating, like
deprecating.
Yeah, that's the
but
one.
Yeah.
Like, I usually just like self-deprecate, like as a haha, I can't wait to like lose to this, or I'm gonna try and kill you now. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's just like I'm trying to gas you up to be like, oh no, this guy's cool. He's my buddy.
Well, we can build some more anticipation for when we do the politics episode, but I do have a couple more little tricks that I'll start with before we get into the game. But I'm tricksy like that. I'm cunning.
Very tricksy, very cunning.
I'm on this topic. I'm pretty sure you do this, Atlas, but what about you, Joe? When you're spectating games, do you ever pay attention to the just the little habits of people? Like, I was in this one game and I noticed that, or I saw a game where they were playing before, and I noticed that they were very quiet, and when they tried to politic, someone else would jump in and they just stopped talking. And so the whole game I was just talking louder than them, and they couldn't get a word out. And they were I was just like, they were trying to tell people to stop me, and I just kept talking and talking, and they couldn't just tell people that I was a problem.
Yeah, no, I don't know that I necessarily like look at those types of things before I get into a game with someone. I definitely like try to assess like player weaknesses in each pod when I sit down, but I do that more on the fly because I feel like even from game to game there can be like differences.
Yeah,
So I don't know. That's not something I do like before I get into a match with someone. But as soon as I'm seated, I'm analyzing.
It's not really more like, oh, I'm purposefully analyzing. It's just like, oh, there's a flag there.
Yeah, you catch something for sure. Or like you'll notice like somebody is always like they're always like holding their hand a specific way, and like when they have a counter spell, like they set 2 cards aside or whatever, and you're like, oh, well, that is interesting.
That's usually what I'm looking for. I follow the hands, not the eyes. Like I pay attention to like basically it's how they position their board, how they if they're a shuffler, if they like put their hands on the table, what are they doing with their hands? Because the face is a huge part. But I hate looking at people's faces and I hate looking at people's eyes. So like that's just funny little quirk about me. But it's easy for me to like follow the hands and like see what's going on. Like if someone's antsy, that's usually like an indicator of like, okay, they're trying to get in, they're trying to do something, like something, you know, how are they fidgeting with their cards? Do they fidget with their cards? You know, I follow the hands mostly.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
I just fidget the whole game.
Yeah,
I will always be shuffling my cards.
Got that ADD.
Yeah, I am an avid card shuffler in my hands. Although recently I have been doing the like face down like shuffle on like my board or whatever, just so that way I don't reveal information. But also like I literally cycle between like 5 different modes for no particular reason. At least as far as I understand, no particular reason. Like I will be on Stone Cold Nothing and just be like constantly looking at my hand and have every answer in the world and be just like face down, like hands, cards face down the table, hands like on my chest, just like watching or just like, you know, kind of like mulling. Like I have I have everything here. Like I'm just kind of doing whatever.
I'll shuffle my cards a lot because I am a card flicker, but if I'm in tournament, I would say I try to play about 70 to 80% of the game cards face down on the table, just keeping in mind what I have.
Like
can't bleed anything if you don't show people the face.
If you don't show yourself it.
Yeah, exactly. Like too many times I'm like I'll be like shuffling my card. I'll be like flicking my cards around and shuffling them in my hand. I'm like I feel like I'm revealing information. I'm like I'm gonna stop doing that now.
That's definitely something I have to work on. I know I bleed cards like a madman.
Everyone does. It's such a hard thing to rein in, like all of like the weird nonverbal stuff.
It's challenging. I'll never forget Jayden. You're like flicking cards. Show me a flusterstorm, and I'm like, that's priority.
I do sometimes purposely bleed cards. Like my brother's told you. Or actually, he told you. This is actually his story. He bleeds cards to me so that I could make the decisions for him.
That's terrible.
And so I started doing that as well when I play with you sometimes. I was just, whoopsies, this source of plowshares dropped.
That's a really interesting one. It's like, and that sort of leads into like more politics. So we don't get too deep into the different tricks and tips yet. But yeah, that's definitely a cool one. I know that I try to never bleed information because I don't want anyone telling me how to use my cards. I'm just gonna
I've tried,
leave them right there,
and it does not ever work out for me much at all. It's Cracker Ranger Captain. I have a mayhem devil. We need to kill this thing.
Absolutely fucking not.
We're gonna lose. Come on.
No, someone tells me to crack my Ranger Captain. I am no longer. I'm not even considering cracking that Ranger Captain.
And then you lose because the Grand Blusher resolves.
No.
I feel like context guides in that regards.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot to take in. But I think it's just really interesting, like the different ways that players can sort of like angle shoot the conversations, the different pods and stuff, especially in tournament where like everyone is playing like sort of a little more cutthroat than they might in a weekly or just in a casual game. I think it's really interesting. I do think that especially when you're playing like in a specific region, and this is the point I wanted to raise with like the PNW regional circuit for CDH coming up here in a couple weeks starting, which I think we're planning to play most of them, at least most of us from our team. So keep an eye out for us. Maybe we'll see you at some of them. The fact that like because the sample size of players is going to overlap at least to some degree,
Rapport is huge.
The whole
rapport is huge.
Yeah, rapport is huge. Like, and just like people will not lie. Like, angle shoot, finagle, do whatever. But if you're showing up at a lot of different tournaments regularly, like those people, if they lie, they know they're just gonna get like hammered for it next time, and no one will trust them, and no one will believe them when they say, "I get probe this guy and he has adnos in hand." Like they're not gonna trust you, and they're not gonna crack the range cap.
I already have a short list of people. If I run into them and I am podded with them, I will just straight up tell people like, "Hey, just so we know, like I've had issues with this person in the past, and they have straight up lied." Like, and I will just give that information, be like, unless we can verify,
do with it what you will.
Do with that what you will. They do have a history of this.
Yeah, that which is really unfortunate. I thankfully haven't had too much of an issue with that kind of behavior
like
when I've been playing at events.
Like exactly 2 people, one of which I hope I never see again. But
yeah, that seems like a player issue rather than like something else, like a personal thing rather than a player.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you have to lie in a tournament, you should figure out something better to do.
Like, sure, is it technically allowed? Absolutely. And like there's a weird like delineation between like bluffing and lying that like not everyone holds the same boundaries on.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like at the end of the day, at least for me, like, it is a game. I'm not willing to, even at a tournament level, it's still a game. I'm not willing to like ruin my relationships with other human beings
or like violate my ethics and morality. Like, I'm just not gonna lie over cardboard.
Yeah. Plus, like we said, like external memory. Like if you play scummy in a game, if you ever have to play with that person again, they're gonna remember, and you will get punished for being scummy in a previous game. It's just gonna happen, and especially if that person knows people, they're gonna complain about you playing scummy, and those people will then know, and you're gonna get punished by those people as well, and it's just real big bad snowball.
Or especially
effect,
if that happens in like the first or second round of a tournament, like as it goes on, like you're gonna
that's not
good.
Yeah,
no, that's not good. You do not want to be the person like gets their name tossed around in like a bad way like that.
Yeah, like hey, you can tell me, hey man, I'm not gonna kill your shit, and then bounce it to hand. Okay, you did not kill it. It did not dice trigger. Fine. Like, you got me,
guys.
I should have said, don't
worry about like the scary, I don't know, like army of 10-10s. Like, I'll deal with it. I'm just gonna win the game.
You did not lie to me. You did not lie to me. You did deal with it. The problem is that is no longer the problem. But yeah, I think bottom line is just like, don't be a scumbag and like be honest at least don't lie.
If you're gonna do something, like, I'm gonna hold you to that. If you're not gonna do something, don't do exactly the thing you said you're not gonna do.
Yeah, or if it comes down to that, just decline to comment.
Yeah,
not answering is always a valid answer.
Jayden, did you have anything else to add in?
Not to add in, but to move on to.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, ooh.
So, is there anything like special that you guys do, like, to prepare for the night before or day before a tournament?
Yeah, I usually try to be in bed like more reasonable than I usually am, although I'm pretty like good about like getting to bed like on time for the most part. Usually in the morning, like I'm not a big breakfast person, but I'll usually make sure I eat something before I head out for the day, you know, make sure I have my coffee. The big thing for me is I'm a big music fan, so like I there are like specific like songs that I will like visit to like prepare myself like mentally, get myself like, you know, going basically.
Oh yeah, listening to music's always good. Just get pumped up. Try and get a good night's rest. Even if you're not a breakfast person, usually grabbing like a bagel, just like something easy, a light bite to eat beforehand is always good. So you make sure that you have some calories in your system and enough energy to run. I guess my only ritual, as it were, is I have a shirt that I make sure that I wear because I got a team shirt. But then I think my only other thing is I just pound caffeine because I am a caffeine addict. So I will just be taking in energy drinks and coffee and tea just all day, constantly. And yes, I will be in the bathroom in between every single round of the event. But that's what I got to do.
Yeah, like I don't really do anything crazy. Just, you know, like decent like
mental health stuff, make sure I'm good, I'm psyched for the event, because the last thing I want to do is like, I don't want to like roll up to an event and be like feeling bad about it. Like I want to roll up and be like excited, but also I guess what's good for like me and us in our position is like we're usually rolling like with a squad to most of the majors that we go to.
I think it's always better to try and get at least one or two friends to go with you. It just makes it, especially if you're traveling, it makes it way easier to have a home base, to have somebody you're comfortable talking with in between rounds, so you don't like self-isolate and like get in your own head and stuff. It really
goes
helps
back
you
to the whole mental thing.
Yeah. It helps you decompress. You can rant about something shitty that happened in the previous game, or you can celebrate something awesome that happened. And I think that's really important as well. But yeah, I like grab one or two people that you know and invite them. But that's something we try and do. Is we always try to roll with the crew. We got our team.
I think at this point we are officially labeling ourselves as a team. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's really fun.
All right, what's next, Jayden? What else you got for us?
Don't put me on the spot.
What do you do? Actually, me and Atlas answer. What are rituals or things that you do before your big tournaments?
Before my big tournaments, I didn't get this far. I always, actually the night before, I always go over some of the main points of the competitive rules enforcement and all the infraction procedures, just so I just know what's happening, know what will be happening. And just, I make sure, obviously, get everything, check your deck 2-3 times, get another person to check it.
Oh, yeah, that's
printing.
That's another one.
I always print 2 to 3 of the deck registration sheets and just get everything ready the night before so that you don't have to do work the day of.
Don't want to rush it and miss something.
For sure. No, like the deck check is something that I will usually. So I guess that is something I do. Is I do what I call inventorying my deck, where I break down my deck into all the individual parts, put it in order as it is on Moxfield, and card for card, find everything, double check everything, put everything into the deck box, put it into my bag, not lock my bag, but like close up my bag and put my bag down, so that way I know like, okay, last I checked, this is all correct. And then usually morning of, I'll have someone like just run through my list, like, at the very least, like count my cards. But yeah, no, like the deck registration sheet is also big. Like I don't know, I hear a lot of stories, people be like, oh, I changed my deck at the last second. I'm like, that is so stressful. I want to just like lock it in like the night before and just be like, nope, this is what we're doing, this is the decision we have made, we are going forward with it, there's no turning back.
As someone who has changed the card in like 2 to 3 cards in their list, like right before an event, I don't know.
Couldn't be me. Could not be me. I cannot. I just don't want to have like the one deck list check, and be like, this card is wrong. I'm like, God damn it!
I have. Yeah, there was one point where I had my deck list on Moxfield or whatever, and I was like, oh shoot, I didn't get a deck check this morning. So I gave it to Jayden. Jayden's like, these 6 cards are wrong, and I was like, oh shit, I changed those last night. I forgot to update it.
Yeah, I need that peace of mind of knowing like, nope, this is the decision we have made. I'm going to bed. I will not make any changes. We are just rolling with this.
I don't know. I'm experimenting on Moxfield and theory crafting and like having nightmares about the worst possible case scenarios right up until we start round 1, and then it's just like Zen.
I feel that. See, the Zen doesn't kick in for me. I'm usually Zen rolling up into it, and then as soon as we get in, that's when I go, oh god, oh fuck, oh geez, oh god.
For me, it's like I was saying, it's like okay, oh shit, this could go wrong. I could fail my deck check. Oh, this is gonna be like just anxiety, panic attacks the whole way. And then round 1 goes up, and I sit down in that chair, and like I don't know, I just like everything else just like disappears for me. I just like I get that breath of calm, like on those commercials where they go,
I sweat way too much about logistics like already. Like if I can just eliminate that, get that done, just be super efficient about that, I'll deal with everything else as it comes.
Yeah. I sit down in the chair for round 1 and I hit the zone and I'm just like, okay, we're gonna be playing the game at Comp Royale, and we're gonna win this game. We are going to make no mistakes. We're gonna play to the best of our ability. And that's what hits me when I sit down. And then I get up from the chair and I'm like, holy shit, that game was crazy.
I'm always, every time I get up from the chair after a good game, I always am just waiting for one of the dudes to finish their game so I could just start talking.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
That like, oh god, the last round, like I finished before everyone was like, man, I just want to bitch about everything, and everyone's in a game right now.
Yeah, I was playing in a different event at a store a couple months ago, and it was that whole thing. It's like you sit down, you're in the Zen spot, and I was playing the game, and a player cast ad nauseum on turns, and it was really complex interactions, and they didn't read some cards, so they made some assumptions about how things worked, and they ended up fizzling out on their Nas turn, and then it passed to me, and I took my turn, and I ended up winning the game. But during the Nas turn, it's a good thing that I was like in that zone, because I almost had an aneurysm. Literally, like the TA, the tournament assistant, was like making comments, like outside play advice to the person who was nosing, like, hey, don't forget about this card and stuff like that. And I was just like, I was over there, and thankfully I was like, okay, well, we'll make it through this, and we're just gonna play to the best of our ability. And as soon as that event ended, I was like, oh man, really good game. Shuffled up my cards from the match, got up, walked outside, and I pulled aside somebody who I had gone to the tournament. I was like, I cannot fucking believe this. Like, the TA was telling this person how to win the game. I was livid, having an aneurysm. And then like going to round 2, and you're like, calm.
I do have one last thing on the prep, and it's kind of a PSA, but Magic players.
Oh, I know.
Please shower and deodorize.
Oh, absolutely.
That is one thing.
Going into summer, please.
For the love of God.
I even bring deodorant to the tournament. And
I'm
absolutely.
This next one I'm going to, like, 100%.
I have every single time I bring an extra stick just in case.
No, I make sure I am groomed and clean and smelling nice from head to toe. There could be stinky people there. It will not be me.
You can smell my pits. It will smell good.
Fresh. I will be clean shaven. Well, at least my head. Like my beard will be in order. My hands will be nice and soft and lotioned. I'll be smelling nice and fresh. I refuse to be the stinky person. My breath.
No stinky gamers.
My breath will smell minty and fresh and wonderful. I might have eaten garlic beforehand. You will not know. But my breath will be good, and I will be hygienic and presentable.
For sure.
Refuse to be the stinky person in that room. Absolutely refuse. Yeah, no. Magic players.
Thank you for that, Jayden.
Yes,
that's important.
That's really
if you take anything else away from this episode, it's that if you smell, I will hate you.
Plus, winning with class is the best way to win.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, anything else, gents? What else we got on the docket?
I've cleaned out mine.
I'm mostly done. No.
Yeah.
Jayden, I want to thank you for coming on. I guess floor is yours if you want to floor something.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was great being on here. I don't really have anything else to floor because I kind of just copy Atlas's ideas, but it is what it is.
Atlas comes with some good ideas to copy with and work on derivative-wise.
I don't know about that, but yeah. So, all right. So catch Jayden winning the next major event you see him at.
Defending my title.
Defending his title. Hopefully we'll see maybe some of you who are listening on May 20th at Gabis Olympic Cards and Comics in Lacey, Washington. And then for those of you who are listening in the Pacific Northwest, keep an eye out for us and our team playing the circuit for the Eminence qualifiers. We will be at least most, if not all of those, at least some of us. So hopefully we'll get to see you there and play some really good games. But yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody. I want to thank our listeners for sticking with us. Y'all are wonderful. Hope you're doing well. We'll catch you later.